tools that that we have available in Edit the Codebook, and the tools that we have to replace Edit the Codebook. So I'm going to just navigate directly to Supervisor Studies, and I'm going to go into this study that needs some codebooks. I'm going to talk about just codebooks and getting codebooks more than anything else. All right. So I'm going to start out just talking a little bit about a new functionality that I'm not sure too many people know we have. And I'm going to start out by going into Ascribe Coder for a question that has no codebook. When you navigate into Ascribe Coder and there's no existing codebook for that question, hitting the search button opens the search codebook dialog. And I wanted to make sure everybody understood that we have this functionality. And this search for codebook allows us to search by code description or ID. So if I'm searching for a codebook that has a code description with the word static in it, I have the choice to search all codebooks, which will search account codebooks, master codebooks, open ends, other specifies, and closed ends. In this case, I'm going to just search for open ends. And I hit search. And what this does is it goes through and finds the first 20 codebooks that have the word static in a code description. Okay, so the first one that it found had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 codes with the word static in them, and then 2 nets, or 2 subnets with the word static. And this looks like it was probably a pos-neg neutral. If I want to see that code book, I click here, and I can see that code book. All right, and I get information about that code book. Which study did it come from? Which question did it come from? You know, how many nets are there? How many codes are there? How many codes are unused? So on and so forth. So I see all that information. If I find a code book that I want to use, and let's just look at this guy here and see if this is, this is overall positive, negative as well. Q9, Q9, Q9. Well, where's the code book I want to use? Not in here. If I find a code book that I want to use, we'll just go ahead and use this one. Then what I do is I click here, and then I have the option to either copy that code book or share that code book. In this case, I'm going to just go ahead and copy that code book. So now I have a code book for this question, for exercise 5 in this study. Okay, I wanted to make sure I pointed that out to everyone because, again, I think it's one of those things that I haven't covered a lot. In the beginning, I didn't even realize this existed, that when the code book is empty, this actually functions as a search for a code book. Now that the code book is populated, this becomes a search within the code book. Okay, so I wanted to point that out. All right, so I'm going to go back to questions. And again, that is what I was calling that is just the search, codebook empty search. All right. Now, so now I have a codebook in exercise 5. And I have a couple of options for using that codebook in other questions. Okay. And I know most of us are familiar with this, but I just want to make sure that we realize that we do still have copy share codebook from and copy share codebook to. All right? So if I want to move this codebook or share this codebook, copy this codebook to other questions within this study, then I would use copy share codebook to. When I use copy share codebook to, what I'm presented with is a list of all the questions that have no coded responses in this study. All right? So some of these questions actually have codebooks. They just don't have responses coded with those codebooks yet. So you'll notice how exercise 1 here has a 41 in brackets in front of it. That means that exercise 1 already has a codebook, and there are 41 codes in that codebook. I just wanted to make sure we understood that, what we're seeing here, okay? And again, this is the copy share codebook 2, and it only works within a study. The cool thing about this is that we can actually we can actually choose multiples, and you can shift-click to choose multiples, pop them over to the selected questions, and then decide whether you want to copy or share. In this case, I'm going to hit Share and hit OK. So now I've just shared that code book that I used, that I found and had associated with exercise 5. It's now shared with A, B, and C. Okay, 5A, B, and C. So what if I want to, and we also know that we have right-click, copy codebook from, which allows us to really copy a codebook from a question in this study, a question in another study, from an account codebook, or from a model. And account codebooks, I'm not going to go into great detail here, but account codebooks are codebooks that we might want to save to have access to, maybe codebooks that we're using over and over and over again. So in this case, if I wanted to use the account codebook for the paper cup brand list, I could, and I could share it or copy it and hit OK. Or if I'm looking for a question in another study, I have to know a little bit about the study ID. So when I start typing, it'll bring up, and notice when I type in hair, it doesn't bring that up. You kind of have to know what the study ID starts with or contains. Well, that's interesting. Why didn't it bring up hair? Oh, because this one, the study ID or the study name has to start with what you're searching for. So in this one, you kind of need to know which study you want to access to find your code book. Okay? So if I want to find my static hair webinar and I'm only looking for my opens, then I hit this drop-down box and it shows me all my opens. All right. The thing about this is, though, I can't see this code book before I use it. Okay? So I kind of have to know exactly where I'm going and which question I want to use and which code book I want to use and all that when I'm doing questions in another study this way. And when I find the code book that I want, I choose whether to copy it or share it, hit OK, and I'm done. All right. But that's not what I'm going to do here. Rather, we're going to talk about the Copy Share Manager. And the Copy Share Manager is accessible from the questions page. It's also accessible from the studies page. You might notice that it's available right there when you right-click on the study. And when you go into the Copy Share Manager, you're presented with two panes. The right pane lists all the questions in the study that you've navigated through. Okay? If you navigate through the question, go back to the questions page. If you navigate through the actual question, you can go into the Copy Share Manager, same view. Okay? It lists all the questions in that particular study. So let's talk about the right pane over here first. This pane tells us which study we're in. If we need to see the study information, we can see the study information here. If we need to go to the questions page, we can go to the questions page. All right? Go back to Copy Share Manager. We can choose the columns that we'd like to show here. Sometimes we like to see the question label and question text, or maybe even the length of the codes. Whatever it is that you want to show here, you can show. All right? List all the questions. And from what I understand, what we see here, what we see here is whether or not this question has a code book. And if it has a code book, then it actually shows the code book here. We can click on it, and that's our code book. And when I say it lists all the questions, it actually, I believe it lists the questions that can take a code book, okay, from what I understand. So this guy, it lists the questions that can accept a new code book. The open book means that there's a code book associated with this. We can see that there's 19 codes in it. If we want to see those codes, there they are. Okay. Same holds true over here on the left side, but I just kind of want to go through what we see on the right side. So this is whether or not a code book already exists. The two arrows mean that a code book exists and it's shared. You'll notice that the shared question column shows that this one's shared with 4. You click on that and notice that this is one of the ways that we can actually unshare a code book. So if we decided that exercise 5 needed to be removed from this series of shared code books, then we would just click Unshare. And exercise 5 is now a copy, but these 3 remain shared. Okay? So and the Codebook Manager allows us to do all of this. The next column we have, of course, is the question ID, question label, question text, and we already know that the number of codes in the codebook. All right? So we've got a list of all the questions that can accept a new codebook. On the left side of the screen, this is where we get to find the question or the study or the source of the codebooks that we're going to move into the empty codebook study over here. We're probably, in this case, I'm going to look for questions in another study. And we get this little drop down. What we're seeing here is a list of the studies on my account. And if I start typing, for instance, if I put an S in here, if I just type an S, it goes to the S's. If I type in a B, it goes to the B's. Okay? We're not really searching so much as we're just kind of trying to get through the list. Okay? So again, if I type in S, it goes to the various things here. I'm going to go to my static hair webinar. All right? And what I want to do is find a codebook for my exercise 6 brand of choice. So, and I think the one that I want to use is my Q11. The cool thing about the Copy Share Manager is that I can click on that and say, yeah, that is the codebook I want to use. So I choose it over here, and then I toggle it over here. So I'm saying I want to copy or share this codebook into this question. Okay? This question doesn't currently have a codebook. It's got the closed book in front of it. And I can either share or make a copy. In this case, I'm going to make a copy and hit OK. So now my exercise 6 has a codebook. I could do the same with my 6A. My 6A is what do I like? And I know that my 7 is my likes, so I can just boom, boom, make a copy. Hit OK. All right? So that is basically how the Copy Share Manager works. And on the left side of the screen, you have those same options. I've got a lot of information on this screen. That might be information overload for some people. Maybe you don't want your question label. Maybe you don't care about the question type. Maybe you don't care about the study ID. So now you're just seeing the question ID, the question text, the length, and then which codebooks are shared. Okay. Now, I've been working in question mode because that makes the most sense to me, because I don't label most of my codebooks in Ascribe. Okay? If I work in codebook mode, I'm going to get a completely different view. Okay? I just want to make sure you realize that, because sometimes when we come in here, I think this might even be the default, we see this and we're like, oh my gosh, what is this? Simply toggle on questions and you'll get back to your familiar grid view. When you're looking in codebook mode, basically you're seeing the number of codes in the codebook, and if you want to see the codebook, you again just click on the book, and then you're seeing the study ID and the question ID that this codebook is used, where this codebook is used. So you'll notice that my codebook here is shared, and if I click on it, I can see actually what that codebook is. Again, for those of us that don't label our codebooks, if I labeled my codebooks, then this would actually show as whatever my codebook ID was. But again, for me, I don't do that a lot, so I would want to work in question mode. All right. We do have a few requests already for this screen. One of them being we want to be able to sort by question ID, or maybe not sort by question, not question ID, question type. We want to be able to filter by question type so that we maybe only see the open ends or only see the closed ends when we're working in here. And one of the other things was just being able to search for a study or a question rather than just having a list of all the studies, because some of us have thousands of studies on our accounts. All right. So that's the Copy Share Manager in a nutshell. Julie, I'm going to ask you, is there anything else that we maybe need to point out here I know that we can, oh, one thing. One of the reasons that I've used this to help clients out is, say you've got a study and you want to get rid of all your code books. You're just like, you know what, this study, I copied it from another, and now they're telling me I need new code books. I want to keep the structure but get rid of the code books. This is a kind of a neat trick. You can actually choose empty code book and go through, and let's say that you know, there's a few of these that I want to make an empty code book. I can go through and select and hit OK. So now I've just deleted 4 code books from my study just by using empty code book. I think that's kind of a nifty little trick if you've got a lot of questions, you know, and we've had clients contact us for this, you know, where you thought it lined up and then they're like, no, we want you to create code books from scratch. So you could go through, or no, the topic's completely different. You could go in and quickly wipe out all your code books using the empty code book. You'll notice that also you can search account code books. In this case, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 account code books here. But notice that when you do account code books, it automatically pops over to codebook mode because an account code book has to be labeled. It has to have a name. So I've got 4 account code books on this particular site. And click on that and see what those are. And then, of course, you can also find get code books from models. All right. So that's the Copy Share Manager. And this was intended to replace the for those of you that use Edit the Codebook to copy or share code books, you know, when you have to hit the study list and it populates the whole study list, this is intended to replace that functionality in Edit the Codebook. And any feedback that you have or any questions that you have, we're more than happy to field and answer. All right.
Laura, just one little thing. You do have navigation to Ascribe Coder on your questions side. Like if you just set your code book, you can over on the other side. Yeah, you could go directly to your coding window. I just want to point out.
Okay. Cool. And it looks like we can actually add questions here too. I haven't used a lot of these tools over here, so thanks for pointing that out, Julie. So you know, you can actually see your question properties here. You can add a new question. See your codebook properties. So if you did want to make one of these, say I wanted to make, let's say that I wanted to make one of these codebooks. Let's see, what is this one? This is the animal code book. I wanted to make this animal code book there it is, an account code book. I could go to code book properties, and I could say, you know what, I want you to be an account code book, and this is my animal codes. And I could give it a description or not, and say whether I wanted duplicates or not, and hit OK. So now you'll notice that Animal Codes is an account code book, and it's automatically associated. You know, one of the questions that uses this account code book is Exercise 7, because I actually made it from Exercise 7 in this study. Okay, so that's a nifty way to create an account code book if you want to start naming your code books. Thanks for pointing that out, Julie. Cool. So let's go into Ascribe Coder. How much time do we have left here? We've got a little bit of time. Let's go into Ascribe Coder now and talk for a minute about dual codebooks. I wanted to go over all of these tools. You know, we've had the Copy Share Manager and Copy To and Copy From for some time. You know, way back when the Codebook Editor Preview came out, which was kind of a precursor to Ascribe Coder. You know, that's when we put the Copy Share Manager out here, and the Copy To and the Copy From. But what's the newest codebook tool that we have is the dual codebooks. And let me just see here. Let's go into 6C and go into Ascribe Coder. All right. So I'm in 6C, and I'm in Ascribe Coder. And what I'm going to do is just insert one code here. I'm going to just call this my nothing code, just so we make sure we've got the proper. There we go. All right. So some of you may ask, well, what do we use dual codebooks for? We've been hearing about this dual codebooks. What dual codebooks allows us to do, you access it by hitting the navigation icon in Ascribe Coder. And here we are with our dual codebooks. Basically, you have two codebook editors side by side in dual codebooks. In this case, you know, I know that I've got 6C's codebook up over here. That's fine. So I need to search for a left codebook. And what I'm going to do is actually look for my account codebooks and go ahead and hit search. And I know that what I want for 6C is a combination of likes and dislikes. So what I want is to bring up my likes, and I want to grab some codes from my likes and grab some codes from my dislikes to create my 6C codebook. So what I'm going to do is unlock the 6C codebook, and I'm going to actually copy and then right-click paste. And when I copied my efficacy net. Okay, so it took everything in my efficacy net. You see that? And I hit paste into, and now I've got an efficacy net in my codebook. All right? And probably what I should have done before anything else was make this overall positive. If I can spell the word positive, I'm going to call this my grand net. All right, I'm cool with that. All right, so I've got an overall positive grand net. I want to actually select Descendants All, and I'm going to move, come on, move selection. Well, Laura, you know what you didn't do, what I never do. I didn't change that. So now what I want to do is move selection into. All right, so cool. There we go. So I've got an overall positive grand net. I'm going to go ahead and insert one more code, and I'm going to call this the overall negative. And basically, the dual codebooks, what it's allowing, and I did it again. My goodness. There we go. All right. So I moved this in. Also going to go ahead and I'm going to copy this one. Copy. And I want to paste it in here. Paste. Paste into. There we go. All right. Might help if I actually deselect some of these guys. There. All right. So those are my positives. But now, you know what? I want to actually bring up my dislikes. So I find my dislikes, hit OK, and now I'm going to grab my efficacy net from my dislikes. I'm going to hit copy, and I'm going to right-click and paste, and I'm going to paste that into my negative net. All right? Now, notice that when I pasted these in, the code values went a little wacky because I had the same code values between the two. That's okay. I could renumber these. And I think we all know how to do that. I select the descendants, codes, hit the renumber, and in this case, yes, I'll start them at 501. I'll do increments of 1 and hit renumber. There we go. Okay, so dual codebooks, we have two codebook editing, two codebook editors at once. All the tools are available on both sides. I could even change my account codebook here if I wanted to. If I saw something that needed to be changed, I could change it here, and it would change the account codebook. Basically, I've got side-by-side codebook editors. The reason that most of us use this is if we need to pull a net from here or a net from there. We want to make one codebook from various codebooks, pulling just pieces over. All right? So that's the gist of dual codebooks and how dual codebooks work. I've gone over dual codebooks in a couple of webinars, and I wanted to make sure that we all realize that we still have other tools. We still have our Copy Share Manager, our Copy Codebook From, our Copy Codebook To, and even when we go into an empty codebook, even this this little Codebook Find search for Codebook option that allows us to search for a codebook by word. So we've got a lot of options for populating our questions with codes and sharing those codebooks and copying those codebooks. Really, one of the things that we've kind of tasked the users group with, one of the things that we've been asking them is to give feedback on the Copy Share Manager. You know, and the sooner the better with that, so that if there's any changes we need to make before we edit the codebook away, you know, that's very important. So one of the things that I'm going to ask you guys is anytime that you go in to use Edit the Codebook, you know, kind of note why and see if there's another tool that would allow you to do that, and if it's as efficient, and if it does the same, you know, what you need it to do. If not, we need to know about that so that come August, when we Edit the Codebook away, you know, when it kind of is sunsetted, you know, we want to make sure you have the tools that you need to succeed in Ascribe. So I'll open the floor now. If there are any questions, observations, or anything like that, just go ahead and shoot them into the chat, and we'll address them. Has anything come up, Julie?
Not yet, Laura.
Okay. And all of the tools that we've talked about today are documented in the help system as well, just so you know. And Antoine, you can go ahead and end this recording. That would be great.